All right, ready for a deep dive into something kinda shocking.
Sounds electrifying.
Today, we're tackling the world of those invisible forces all around us. Electromagnetic fields, or EMFs.
You mean like, radiation?
You got it. We're going way beyond just the obvious stuff like microwaves, though.
Interesting.
We've got some really cool excerpts from a scientific text on magnetobiology.
Magnetobiology.
It's all about how magnetic fields affect living things, basically. Might sound a little intimidating, but stick with us.
Okay.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand how EMFs, from the Earth's magnetic field to your phone, could be influencing you right down to your cells.
So we're talking about how these fields, even the weak ones, can have a real impact on us biologically.
Exactly. It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that makes you go, wait, how is that even possible?
I mean, we hear about the dangers of radiation, but this is different.
It really is. Think about it. The energy of these low-frequency EMFs is actually much smaller than the energy that hold your cells together.
So it's almost like trying to move a mountain with a whisper.
That's a great analogy. It's a paradox that has puzzled scientists for a long time.
So how do they explain it?
Well, there's this theory called the ion interference mechanism that might hold the key.
Ion interference mechanism. Okay, break that down for me.
Picture this. An ion, which is just a charged atom, trapped inside a protein molecule in your body.
Okay.
It's like a tiny little marble vibrating in a bowl, you know?
I can visualize that.
Now, when an external EMF, say, from your phone, happens to match the frequency of that vibrating ion,
What happens?
it can disrupt things. Think of it like pushing a swing at just the right moment to make it go higher.
So it's about resonance, like finding that sweet spot that amplifies the ion's vibration.
Exactly. And even though the disruption is tiny, it can change how that protein works.
And that matters because...
Proteins are the workhorses of our cells. They're involved in basically everything.
So even a small change in their behavior could have a ripple effect throughout the whole body.
That's the idea.
Wow, that's kind of freaky, you know? My phone messing with my proteins just by being near me.
It's definitely something to consider.
Has this actually been observed? I mean, are there any real-world examples of this happening?
Oh, absolutely. Scientists have done experiments where plant growth was actually stimulated in environments with weak magnetic fields.
Plants? Really?
Yep. They're actually pretty sensitive to EMFs and provide a good model for studying these effects.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's not just growth. Researchers have found that specific magnetic fields can even influence the cell cycle and calcium levels in plants.
So they're like little EMF detectors. That's cool. But what about us humans? Is there any evidence that these weak fields are impacting our health?
Well, some studies have suggested a connection between EMFs and heart problems in humans.
That's a bit worrying.
It's still a fairly new area of research, and there's lots of debate.
But it's not just about how strong the EMF is, right? It's also about the specific frequencies involved.
Exactly. Think of it like tuning into a radio station. If the frequency is off, you won't get a clear signal.
Right.
Different ions in our bodies, like calcium and magnesium, each have their own unique resonant frequencies.
And those are the ones we need to pay attention to.
That seems to be the case.
But hold on, here's what I don't get. Our bodies are constantly bombarded by EMFs from everywhere. Phones, Wi-Fi, power lines, even the Earth itself. How can these tiny effects from specific frequencies even be detected with all that noise?
That is a great question, and scientists are still trying to figure that out. But there's this intriguing concept called stochastic resonance that might provide some answers.
Stochastic resonance. That sounds complicated.
I know, right? But let me try to explain it. Imagine trying to hear a whisper in a noisy room. It's almost impossible.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm always asking people to repeat themselves.
Well, here's the strange part. If you add just the right amount of white noise to that room, the whisper can suddenly become clearer.
So the noise actually helps you hear the signal better. How does that make sense?
It's weird, isn't it? But some scientists believe that the constant noise of EMFs in our environment might actually help our cells detect and respond to those specific frequencies that matter. It's like they're using the background noise to tune into the important signals.
That's mind-blowing. So instead of being overwhelmed by all those EMFs, our bodies might actually be using them to fine-tune their processes.
That's one theory. And it really speaks to the amazing complexity and adaptability of living systems.
This is seriously fascinating stuff. But it also raises a ton of questions. If these weak EMFs can have these subtle yet potentially significant effects on our bodies, then what does that mean for our health? And what can we do about it?
Those are excellent questions, and they're exactly what we'll be digging into next time. We'll explore some of the potential health implications of EMFs and talk about some practical steps you can take to manage your exposure.
Can't wait. Okay, so last time we were talking about how even weak EMFs could be messing with our cells.
Yeah, in ways we're just starting to understand.
And now I'm kind of freaking out, like, what do we do with this information?
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
It's kind of unsettling, right? I mean, our phones and laptops could be affecting our health in these subtle ways, so where do we go from here?
Right.
We can't exactly chuck all our electronics and, live in a Faraday cage, can we?
Well, that's true, but it's important to remember that EMFs aren't inherently bad. I mean, even the Earth itself has a magnetic field.
Right.
And it's actually essential for life as we know it.
It is, yeah. Like that giant invisible force field around our planet protecting us.
Exactly. Think about it. Birds use the Earth's magnetic field for navigation.
Right, and it shields us from harmful solar radiation.
So it's really about finding a balance.
So balance is key.
Yeah, it's about understanding the potential risks and taking reasonable steps to minimize unnecessary exposure.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we even know which EMFs are the potentially harmful ones and which ones are just part of that natural background?
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
It's not as simple as saying all EMFs are bad or all EMFs are good.
Exactly. It seems like the specific frequencies and the intensities are what matters most.
So like we were talking about earlier, it's about finding the right radio station, right?
Yeah,
Our bodies are tuned to specific frequencies,
precisely.
and those are the ones that we need to pay attention to.
This is where more research is really crucial, you know?
Yeah.
You need to get a much clearer understanding of how different frequencies and intensities affect all these biological processes.
But in the meantime, are there any proactive steps we can take?
Definitely.
All right, let's talk solutions. What are some practical things we can do right now to minimize our exposure?
Well, one simple step is just limiting your exposure to devices that emit strong EMFs, especially close to your body.
So no more sleeping with my phone under my pillow.
Probably a good idea. And try not to spend hours with your laptop directly on your lap.
Okay, I can do that. What else?
You can think about the wiring in your home.
The wiring.
Yeah, older wiring can sometimes create higher EMF levels compared to newer, properly grounded systems.
I never even thought about that. So it might be worth getting an electrician to take a look.
It could be, yeah, especially if you're concerned.
Okay.
You can also get devices that measure EMF levels.
Really?
Yeah, so you can get a sense of what the fields are like in your own home. Become an EMF detective.
Okay, that's cool. But, remember we talked about the Earth's magnetic field being so essential?
Yeah.
Well, some scientists think that disruptions to this field, even temporary ones, could have pretty significant biological effects.
It's a really fascinating area of research.
Because, it's not just about the EMFs we create.
Mm-hmm.
We're also part of a larger system that can be influenced by, well, all sorts of external forces.
Right.
You mean like solar flares and geomagnetic storms?
Exactly.
Those events where the sun basically throws a tantrum.
Yeah. And when those happen, they can disrupt the Earth's magnetic field. And there's even evidence that these disruptions might be linked to things like mood swings, sleep disturbances, even heart problems.
Whoa. So we're talking like cosmic level EMF effects now.
It really is. And it shows how interconnected everything is.
Right. Like we're not isolated beings. We're part of this larger electromagnetic ecosystem. So what does this mean for our understanding of, health and well-being? It sounds like we need to be thinking bigger than just our individual bodies.
I think so. It suggests a more holistic view.
Right.
We can't just focus on what's happening inside of us. We need to think about the environment we're in, both the natural and the man-made.
Yeah. Recognizing our place in the big picture, I guess.
Exactly.
I'm sensing a theme here. Balance. Finding that sweet spot where we can benefit from technology without being overwhelmed by the potential downsides.
You got it. It's about making informed choices and being mindful of our relationship with technology.
Okay, but I'm curious about the more, immediate practical stuff. What about those products and technologies that claim to reduce EMF exposure?
Oh, yeah.
Like, do those actually work?
So there are definitely companies out there marketing EMF blocking devices, everything from phone cases to blankets. But it's important to approach those with a little bit of caution.
Yeah, I bet there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there trying to, capitalize on people's concerns.
Yeah, unfortunately. And the science behind many of those products is often, shaky at best.
So buyer beware. But what about the legitimate research? I mean,
Or
are there any promising avenues for developing technologies that could safely mitigate EMF effects?
absolutely, there's a lot of exciting research happening.
Like what?
For instance, some scientists are exploring using specific frequencies of EMFs to actually promote healing and well-being.
Wait, so EMS could be used for good. It's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. Remember, EMFs are a fundamental part of our world. It's about learning to work with them, not just feeling them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So it's less about avoiding EMFs altogether and more about understanding how to use them wisely, like harnessing their power.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so exciting. We're just at the beginning of this journey of discovery.
Who knows what the future holds?
Well, no.
Welcome back, everyone. So in parts 1 and 2, we dug into how EMFs might be impacting us, both the good and the bad, and some ways to manage our exposure. But now, get ready for some seriously mind-bending stuff, because we're going deep into the cutting-edge research, even venturing to some controversial territory.
That's right. We're moving from the practical to the truly profound. We're talking about bioelectromagnetism, the role of EMFs in consciousness.
Whoa, hold on. Consciousness.
Yeah, and even the idea of using EMFs to, boost our brain power.
Okay, I'm all ears, but this sounds a little out there.
I know, right? It's pretty wild stuff.
So let's start with bioelectromagnetism. What is that exactly?
Well, it's this really cool field that looks at how living things create and interact with electromagnetic fields.
You mean, like, we're not just passive receivers of these fields? We actually make our own.
You got it. Every single cell in your body has an electrical potential. And when all these potentials interact, they create these weak electromagnetic fields.
So we're like walking, talking EMF generators. That's crazy.
It is, isn't it? And these bioelectric fields, as they're called, aren't just some random side effect.
Right.
They play a super important role in a lot of different biological processes.
Like what?
Everything from wound healing to how embryos develop.
So it's not just external EMFs we need to be thinking about. They're also an essential part of who we are and how our bodies work.
Exactly. It's like our cells are using this hidden language of electromagnetism to, communicate with each other.
Yeah, hidden language. Okay, now you're really getting my attention.
And here's where things get really mind-bending. Some scientists actually think that these bioelectric fields might be a key factor in consciousness itself.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold up. Are we talking about the mind-body connection here? Like EMFs and consciousness? That seems like a huge jump.
I know it sounds pretty far out there, but there's actually some interesting research suggesting there might be a connection.
Really?
Yeah. For example, studies have shown that certain patterns of brainwave activity, which are essentially electrical signals, are linked to different states of consciousness.
Okay, so our brains are like these electrical orchestras, and different patterns of activity create different experiences, like a lullaby for sleep and a rock anthem for when you're, wide awake.
That's a great analogy. And some researchers think that EMFs might actually help coordinate those patterns, almost like a conductor leading the orchestra.
Okay, so EMFs could be the link between the physical stuff of our brains and, well, the actual experience of being conscious.
That's the idea. It's still a very new area of research, but it raises a lot of fascinating questions about, the nature of reality, who we are, all that big stuff.
So if EMFs can potentially influence consciousness, does that mean we could use them to, enhance our brain power?
That's another area where there's a lot of active research going on. Have you heard of transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS?
Oh, yeah, TMS. It's used to treat depression, right?
Right, and it's showing some promise in that area. But researchers are also looking at whether it can be used to boost cognitive abilities.
Like what?
Things like memory, focus, even creativity.
Wow. So we could be using EMFs to, give our brains a tune-up. That's both amazing and kind of scary at the same time.
I know, right? There are definitely some ethical questions to consider. But it seems like EMFs, in all their complexity, might hold the key to understanding not just our physical health, but also the very nature of our minds and how we experience the world.
This has been an incredible journey. We started with the basics of EMFs and ended up diving into consciousness. I mean, what a ride.
It really shows you how much we still don't know about the world around us. There's so much left to discover.
That's for sure. Well, listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive. We hope it sparked your curiosity about the invisible world of EMFs. Keep those minds open, keep asking questions, and remember, knowledge is power. Until next time.